Hey, Bat Family. For those of you who don't read the episode notes, and I totally get it if you don't, I wanted to give you a quick heads up. This episode was one of the last pieces of content that we recorded on our old setup. That means the audio isn't quite as polished as I would like, and frankly, from what I hope you've been getting used to with our more recent episodes. Of course, that means we have the return of the table bumping, the thing that once Scott finally heard what he was doing, he stopped doing. If you don't want to listen through with that, we get that too. But the editing process has definitely improved since our earlier episodes where those were issues, and I hope you really enjoy episode 10. Either way, we'll have more special content releasing soon, our 10 preview coverage among that, and episode 11 will be releasing in 2 weeks. Enjoy!
Scott! Ah! What?
We're at episode 10, aboard all the time.
How the heck did we get here?
Sheer grit, determination, and stupidity.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So since this is the 10th episode, which means it is a multiple of 5, that makes this a top 10 list.
Oh, wait, does that mean we have a special guest?
It does mean we have a special guest.
Oh, man, we let someone else in here?
We did. And it is our first non-theater geek that is part of this. Welcome, Jake.
Hey, how's it going?
Glad to have you here, man.
Yeah. I'm sure, Scott, you are thrilled to have me here, as it sounded.
Hey, I always have to be slightly sarcastic.
That's fine. You know.
Yep, exactly.
So Jake and I have known each other for 15 years at this point. He was the best man at my wedding. I was...
Well,
what?
Technically, I wasn't.
Yeah, well, look, I was co-best man at yours. Yeah. You were runner-up co-best man in secret at mine.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. There was supposed to be a sash. It's a whole thing.
Yeah, I did all the work.
What in the world did I get involved in?
We'll tell you later.
Yes.
That whole story. One of the things that Jake and I love talking about when it comes to pretty much any kind of pop culture, games, anything else, are anything that is super thematic. We dig into theme very hard.
I call myself the theme queen for a reason.
I know. So that's why he is here for this, the list of the top 10 most thematic games. So we'll certainly go through the criterion of what we picked and why we did so. I'm interested to hear what you guys did, because I will say, while I have a little bit of IP on mine, I ended up largely staying away from that realm.
I've only got one IP.
Now, see, I'm a little bit different. Most of my collection really is IP-based. I just enjoy them. They're my jam.
Nothing wrong with that.
You also tend to bite in pretty hard on larger Kickstarter projects that Scott and I don't, because of your love of theme.
Yeah, generally and you're probably going to see it throughout a good chunk of my list, that if there is a horror game in particular that you have a lot of interest in, I'm usually the one that gets the text.
Look, just because I know there's a willing audience, we as a group have actually done a pretty good job of saying, oh wait, you're going to buy that one? I'm not going to. Because very rarely do you need 3 copies of the same game.
Yeah. You just happen to know I'm the gothic horror guy.
That's true. Now,
which is fine.
Now, I will say, when I was looking through mine, horror tends to be, I think, the best adaptable thematic convention to a board game.
Oh, absolutely.
It just tends to work very well.
Because everybody's scared of something, and when you can sit there and exploit it, especially for entertainment purposes, it's going to be a winner usually.
Well, and let's face it, throughout the world, there's so many mythologies you can mine. So many stories to mine.
So many stories.
It's not... That is a well that is never going to run dry, provided you aren't just doing the typical, well, we're doing Dracula again.
Yeah, exactly.
When I was building my list, look, I probably went too hard.
Wait, you did? Wait, this shocks me. What?
So I went through BGG's top 1,000 on their thematic rankings, which, FYI, I disagree with about 70% of what's there. I went through my entire collection, and I went through every game I have ever rated. Not every game I've ever played or owned, just every game I've rated. So I looked at something on the order of close to 3,000 games. I built a short list of about 60, and then willed it all the way down to 15. I struggled over what the top 10 should be, literally until about an hour before you guys showed up. I do need to say right up front, I have never played War of the Ring, I have never played Star Wars Rebellion, and I have not played my father's work. From what I understand, all 3 of those are prime contenders for this list. I have not played them. They will not make the list.
You went through several hundred. I went through 100. And mine are all ones that I own.
Where my list ended up shaking down to is, what do I think presented a theme the best?
Okay.
And then executed that theme the best within that. That said, there are actually a couple games on my list I no longer own and frankly don't even really like. But for what they did thematically, they are incredible. So there are, especially my honorable mentions are going to be a couple of those games that I think a lot of fun theme-wise, but just didn't pull the game up enough with it.
I've got some that I have problems with. I've got a couple comparisons that I will be doing on my list of, I like this one sucks.
That's absolutely fair.
You know.
Yeah, mine, unlike you, I didn't do thousands. Unlike you, I didn't do hundreds. I went solely off what's in my brain. Really, the first ones that sprung to mind. Mechanics were considered, but playability and fun factor was foremost at my decision.
I went through the ones that I felt had, like, you get what the theme is off the bat.
Sure.
Whether it's a good game or not. My number 10 needs a lot of work, but you get what they were going for. It's our number 10s.
Scott, you spoke first. Kick us off.
Oh my gosh, yeah. So my number 10 is on my list because you get the theme right off the bat, and it's got some issues that, my God, I hope a second edition fixes.
Would you say that they're, I don't know, royalty maybe at some point in the evening?
Yeah, shut up. It was released last year in 2023. The designers are Kyle Shire and Alexandre Ubaldi. It is Darrington Press's Queen by Midnight. I've said it before and I will say it again. It's got a great skeleton.
Yeah.
It falls flat in several areas, but like, you get the theming. It wouldn't have worked with queens. It wouldn't have worked with kings. Princes aren't we don't talk about princes. This is definitely the princesses of all the fairy tales that we know and love. Trying to kick the hoo-has out of each other and manipulate.
And the art's great.
The art's
Presentation.
incredible.
It is a beautiful game.
It sits so nicely on the table. It's a shame that it came out
It needed
underbaked.
more playtesting. It needed more balancing.
It very
It
much
needed
did.
a second pass.
It did. But when we're sitting here looking at theming, it's super strong. And so
My number 10 is going to be the same way.
and it's just, that's the thing, is it has to be, when you're looking at themes, it's got to be on my list.
My number 10, I went in a slightly different direction than the two of you. Mine is an IP. It was released 2021, and it is Kingdom Hearts Perilous Pursuit.
I really was wondering if this would make your list.
It absolutely will. It's a fun game. I don't know if you played it with us or not,
I
Scott.
don't believe I have.
Okay.
I mean, I love Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah,
you would enjoy this.
It's a fun game. It's a quick game. It's a dice game.
Okay.
Everybody picks their character, Riku, Goofy, Donald, Sora, Kairi. You travel through 6 worlds. You close the hearts of the worlds by beating the boss as well as the heartless minions. You roll your dice, and what's fun about it is you get to share your dice with the other players. So if you rolled an attack that somebody else needs, great, give it to them, let them use it, get it back at the end of the turn.
And it has a really cool engine building system of like you're able to upgrade your stats and do more with your dice.
Okay.
For having a lot of luck, it is mitigable because of that engine building and that dice sharing. It's so much fun.
But yet every character manages to feel unique because their stats don't all start out the same, and their bonuses as you upgrade them don't go the same routes. So it's just a fun game. It's nothing too intensive, but if you love Kingdom Hearts or if you just love Disney, definitely give it a shot. It is fun, and I'm not even a Disney fan, so.
Very cool. I look forward to it.
It was also a re-theme of another game. This is one of those cases where the theme just strictly improved the game.
Yep.
I will be bringing that up on my list later on.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's, again, one of the reasons on my list.
Like Scott said, this is more of a game of aspirational hope, which is very inverse to its incredibly bleak theme. The game is The Night Cage. It came out in 2021. Thematically, you are however many players, and if you play solo, you're playing four-handed, which is rough, where you are in a dark pit. You are not allowed to talk to anybody unless you are actually next to each other. And if at any point your candle goes out, you can't see anymore, and you only know the tile you are on. And if you stay on a tile too long, it'll probably fall out from under you. If a tile leaves the light radius of your candle, it's gone. It is a bleak, unpleasant, unending, oppressive theme that just gives such an incredible experience for how badly lucky and random and just the game just falls so flat.
It's top decking with
It
tiles.
is. And if it turns out, especially if you play with some of the other stuff where one of the key monsters, you're just in front of it instead of behind it, and now there's no way because you got 2 of the key tiles and nobody else got any. There's just too many moments where it falls apart. I would love a second edition of it. The game just falls apart, but the theme is just so good that I think about it 3 years later. Number 9.
My number 9, absolutely loved it. It was such a shocker because when you sit there and you think of the theme, you're like, huh, what? And it absolutely is one of my favorite games to play. Can't imagine not spending time dealing with space bees. And it's Apiary. I mean, to sit there and have such a weird theme, but have it be done so well. Mm-hmm. Like there is parts of this is definitely space colonization. This is what you would do with researching and exploring other planets, and we're making them better and all this like really cool, like good, feel good stuff. And it's still bees. And you've got to do crops and you're getting wax and it works so well. Like you learn a dance. Because you know that's how they communicate. And it's just like, how does this work so well? And it is done so phenomenally. And of course, it's done by the team over at Stonemaier. And it's just like, what?
Hey, bees are awesome, man.
Bees are great.
I kept myself to only one Stonemaier game on the list. It was not this one. I love the theme. Quantai Morai's art is just spectacular.
Yeah.
A game about space bees should be terrible.
Space bees.
It's amazing.
I kept myself to one Stonemaier game as well, though not intentionally.
This is my Stonemaier game, also not intentional.
My number 9, I'm actually staring at it right as we speak. It was a release last year from Black Letter Games. It's Damnation, the Gothic game. It's one of those rare games to me where the theme really informs the gameplay in a really strong way. The basic gist of it is you're all people damned to hell, and you're stuck with each other, and it's a last man standing gets out kind of situation.
Oh my.
It can be very backstabby. There's
Can be
no
mean.
way to deny that.
The Black Letter was last year. The original design was 93?
Something like that, yeah. Yeah, sorry, this is a remake, but it's also an enhancement of the original. It's a tight cluster of a home that you're wandering around. I mean, it's basically Clue, right? But if you're trying to murder each other instead of find out who the murderer was, I really want to try with 8 people to see how insane it is.
That's going to be brutal.
If we ever do, all I'm going to say is stay away from the center.
Oh, yeah. Stay away from the stairwell.
Stairwell is an instant death, if you're unlucky.
Wow.
You can also become a vampire.
You can, because this is also Dracula's home. Because of course it is.
Because of course it is. Wow.
It made the short list. I'm not gonna lie. It made the short list. What ultimately pushed it off of mine is how mean it is.
Yes, and I totally understand that.
It's perfectly in theme.
And that's the thing.
Mechanically, I don't like that much meanness in a game.
Yeah, and I get that. But again, this being top themes, it plays exactly the way it should, based on the theme that you're given.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you're going to be mean. That being said, the two of us have played it. I never felt like we were being cruel. But we were also there.
I wasn't at the table.
If one of our friends is at the table, and you know which one I'm talking about,
yes,
it would be a much different affair.
Oh yeah, but he'd
be not
first.
Me.
No, it's not. It's nobody in this room.
Yeah, but that's also the interesting thing with it is you can't just start up a fight anywhere. You can only do it in certain areas. That stealth is very much a part of the game. You can move around through hidden passages, all that stuff. The rooms can kill you in this game.
It's true.
If you stay in them for too long.
Wow.
It's the torture room that just has you get Iron Maidened.
That is a possibility, yeah. It's the only room that has that, but yeah, 100% you could accidentally fall into an Iron Maiden and get taken out of the game.
You accidentally fall into an Iron Maiden.
That's a bad couple turns later, but it's...
Yeah, that is also the thing. Once you're out of the game, it's one of those where you're not really out of the game, which is nice.
Oh, wow, okay.
It's absolutely worth the play. So long as you go in saying, like, this game is mean, it is a last person standing game, and you go in with an understanding group, it can be a ton of fun. Yeah, it matches its theme perfectly.
Yes, and that's why it had to make the list.
My 9, one of the things that I looked at with top themes are it makes me want to play it over and over.
Oh, yeah.
This game intentionally makes you not want to play it. Again, these top
Okay.
couple are a little weird, but if we're talking about thematic experiences, and if I am sitting there and I'm talking about this is the experience I had with the game and it came from that theme, I had to mention it. It is a small box game, came out in 2015. It was published by Simon, one of the few times you'll ever hear me talk about a Simon game, by Fabian Ruffo and Juan Rodriguez. The art was done by one of the artists that was killed at Charlie Hebdo. It is called The Grizzle.
Oh,
And
such a good game.
The Grizzled is set in World War One, and you bring a squad of guys to the trenches. And the whole point of a game session, and you could talk about the Armistice Edition with the campaign stuff, the regular, it doesn't matter, they play the same. Where you have whoever the mission leader is, they decide we each have to play X number of cards. You will have cards in your hand, and your goal is to have everybody play those cards. However, each of the cards has 2 of 6 threats on it. There's 3 symbols and 3 terrain types. And if too many of a single type happen, the mission just fails. And so you're allowed to withdraw at any point. But if you withdraw before a certain number of cards are played based on the player count, then you're going to have more cards added onto you. And so now you've just stretched the war out. And so your goal is to survive the war with as few scars and as little PTSD on you as possible, because depending on what happens and depending on when you withdraw, you can end up being extra susceptible to bombs, or you could have bad reactions to winter weather, something like that. I sat there looking at this row of cards, very small game, and just feeling overwhelmed. The designers of the game had familial relations that fought in World War I on the French side. They said, we just wanted to try and approximate something of what they would have felt. And if you are willing to engage with the theme, it is there 100%. Like I said, it is almost impossible to win. It is a bleak theme. It is not one you want to go back to very often. Just like the Night Cage, like I think about this game far more regularly than I would expect because it is so strong.
I have not gotten to play that one. That
No.
one looks really good, though.
I don't think you would like it.
Probably not.
Scott, if you went in coming at from the thematic side, you were willing to let a lot of mechanical stuff go for a good theme.
Oh, yeah.
I think you would have you wouldn't have a good time with it, but
Right. I mean, it's a good game, and I would have a great time playing the game. It's number 8.
Yes. What?
What?
we're getting into the ones I enjoy playing, guys.
Yeah.
I've been there.
My number 8, I just absolutely adore. The artwork very much fits the theme. Looking at the parts of the game that you get, like some of the mechanics and the resources that you use, very much feels absolutely on brand.
I think I know what this is.
I don't know if you do.
Really?
I'm going to be, because I don't think I've ever brought up this game. It was released originally in 2020 was the first time it was released. It was released by Leader Games. It's Fort. I just dig Fort. You're trying to score pizza, and you're using that to bulk up your stats, and you're getting all your friends because you're going to build a really nice fort, and it's a little bit of engine buildy, and
Popping emotes and dancing all over the
it's
During the day.
yeah,
Oh.
it's hand management. It's a race game because you're trying to get to certain things faster than everybody else. Just going to 10 points, but you start with you and your best friend, and then you're going to try to recruit other kids in the neighborhood, and then you sit there and you keep going, and but those kids eventually will leave, and then but they'll go to your house then, and they traipse through other people's yards, and then they did an expansion a couple years ago, which added the pets of the cats and dogs, and it's just one of those things that it's not a hard game at all. It's very much anybody can sit down and play it. But when you sit there and you look at these very rudimentary pencil drawings and the bright, shiny colors, and it just makes me smile.
So you were inadvertently correct in that it did technically come out before 2020 because Fort is a reimplementation.
Really?
Of
Okay.
an older game. Older is like 2018.
Okay.
Called SQPR, I think. Whatever the Roman Legion would be.
Oh.
This is one of those moments of, yeah, they redid the theme because the theme works so much better that way.
Yeah.
that tracks.
I love Kyle Farron's art. It's
Yeah.
why I like Root. It's why I like Ahoy, even though it's essentially a lesser version of Root.
Yeah.
I hate the art on Fort.
Really?
The art on Fort
seen it.
has pushed me away from ever trying it.
Oh,
It was kind of like Doug, the old
Oh,
cartoon
yeah,
show,
no, you lost me.
where they just have wild skin tones and crazy
yeah.
haircuts and
Oh, good God, no.
yeah.
oh yeah. And honestly, that's what drew me to it. It's just kooky.
Yeah.
And that's all it needs from me.
Right
So
on.
yeah, we played
It's like Doug meets Ed, Ed, and Eddie.
very
Oh,
much
but
so.
I love that editing.
And it's just you're sitting there trying to match symbols, and I just dig it. I just dig it. So you don't have to play.
Bring it over. I'm sure you own it. I would be happy to try it. I just have never went out of my way because I also realized in my collection I only need 1 liter game, and it's rude.
Yeah, and you can have it.
All right, my number 8, a bit of an oldie, at least first edition of it. I think it was released 2005. It's Arkham Horror.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
notoriously difficult. I mean, and admittedly, I haven't played. I think they're up to a 3rd edition now.
Yeah.
I haven't played that one yet.
I've only played second.
If you know you're going in and you're gonna have a rough time with it, you're gonna enjoy it a lot.
Oh, yeah.
If you go in expecting it to be easy, you're gonna be disappointed. But it's a fun game, for me at least, fighting all the different eldritch horrors that Lovecraft could come up with. Cultists, all that stuff, trying to figure out, mysteries, all that. And honestly, I think it was probably my introduction to modern board gaming. Probably.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, probably 15, maybe 14 years ago at this point. Like, that was the first thing I played. I was like, all right, I'm down for this.
Yeah.
My biggest issue with Arkham Horror is it's either going to be an hour or it's going to be 6 hours. And there's really no middle ground.
There isn't, but I'm kind of here for that.
Yeah.
You know what you're going to get yourself into if you're going to
Yeah,
put
like
this on the
if
table.
I'm going into
don't-
Arkham Horror, like I'm happy to play
Don't
Arkham
trust
Horror.
the box. It's lying to you.
Oh, yeah.
On playtime. But what I really dig about it is that it forces teamwork in ways where if you aren't all working together in the right way, and yes, there is a touch of luck involved, of course, but if you aren't working together, you are going to lose the game. Things are going to show up on the board that nobody can deal with because you're not even close to it.
Yep.
I appreciate that in a game. You can't all just huddle up and work together. You have to work together, but separately.
Yeah.
And I think that does it very well. And of course, it's all painted with the horror that is Lovecraft's imagination, which is always fun. Overdone, but fun.
I ended up not actually having an Eldritch horror theme on my list. Of the Arkham Files of what I've played, Elder Sign is my favorite, but
And that's fair.
the gameplay and thematic matches
I think mine
isn't
would be
100
Mansions
there.
of Madness, in all honesty.
I still need to play Mansions. So number 8 is the last kind of caveated one on my list, where it's big and it's sprawling and it takes an inordinate amount of time. And it's a solo game. But Nemo's War is one of the most interesting and intricate war games. I had never read 20,000 Leagues until I played the game. And then I went and read the book. And then I played the game again. I'm like, I am shocked at how well they poured this theme in, because when you're playing, you get to pick which path you take Nemo down on his motive for either war, exploration, science, or anti-imperialism. The game itself reacts very differently depending on your motive. And it is a lot of dice checks, and there's a lot of pulling stuff out of bags, and there's all kinds of tokens everywhere. It is a hard game to come to grips with, and I have never played it and had it go less than 3 hours. But man, if you like that theme and you like the idea of, I'm going to approach this world in such a different way, it's fascinating, because you're trying to keep your infamy down, but you're also trying to make sure that you are raiding against warships, and it's incredible. For a bunch of tiles on a very dry looking map, it is just chock full.
And 3 hours for a solo game. Wow.
Yeah, that's an investment.
That's an investment. I mean, that's also very interesting.
And I went in, I had kind of the zeitgeisty approach of, oh, I know Nemo, like there's a submarine and he's underwater and stuff happens. I enjoyed the game. Once I read the book, I absolutely fell in love with the game. Hey Scott, how about your number 7?
Yeah, this is the oldest game on my list. I remember grabbing this game, one, because of its player count, because it's The maximum is 8. But when you grab it and you open up the box and you see the sheet of rice paper first thing when you open up the box, you immediately know that when you're playing Suro, that you're in for just a treat. I love Suro's theme. You're making a weird face.
I thought you were going somewhere completely different. And
I
then
did
he
too.
said rice paper. I'm like, okay, maybe he meant acetate. And then he said Suro. And I'm like, nope, he is not going to Captain Sonar. He's going to Suro.
Gosh, that's a pretty game. Even though, like, you've got the goofy little plastic rocks that you use to slide on the tiles. It's another one of those I don't see it working with any other theme. I mean, unless you're doing like kids on slides or something like that. like if you're doing like a huge chutes and ladders, and I don't think it would work as well without that theme. Looking at the game when it's done, I just like how it looks. I like the history of it, like the little storyline that they give you. I just like how it sits. Like, I can't really explain any much other. So, I mean, the designer is Tom McMurtry. It was, like I said, it was done back in 2005. It was published by Calliope Games. It's also been done by WizKids. Artist Kathy Brigg, Andrew Hepworth, Shane Small, and just a couple other people. But God bless. I like how it looks. It's probably the most simple of the games that I got on my list. And I think it's that simplicity that makes it look nice.
I've bought games that just based solely on looks too.
Yeah.
So that's it.
I mean,
I get it.
my number one was sure based on look.
Look, I love the game.
Yeah.
For a mechanism fun ratio, it's perfect. It's an abstract, man. There's no theme.
See, I don't see it that way.
I think Sir of the Seas has more of one.
I do as well.
But I have never once looked at Sir and been like, that's the stuff.
And that's fine, because, I mean, you and I look at things very vastly different. But, no, I mean, it reminds me of, like, drawing lines in the sand with sticks. And just, watching, like, as water goes through it. I can imagine different things with that game.
But imagine if it were a Tremors-themed game, and it's just sandworms digging through.
And Kevin Bacon.
Man.
Yeah.
It could be a racing game. Like, I feel like you
And
could
Kevin
swap...
Bacon.
I feel like you could swap a lot of stuff out for
See,
it.
and I don't. I don't think it would hold the same candle to it.
Sure.
I really don't. When I look at Suro, I see Suro as like one of those classic games that I always want to have a hold of.
Oh, absolutely.
And I don't think with any other theme it would ever sit on my table as a thing I'd always want to play.
Fair enough.
I think that's the difference of Suro for anything else. Because, yeah, if it was kids and slides or if it was sandworms, okay, great. That's cool. Yeah. And it sits on my shelf where I could sit there and look at Suro and be like, I've done it where I've just flipped tiles by myself at my house. I'm weird.
Look, I hope you don't think I'm attacking you on it.
No.
This is why I like having this conversation, because I would have never once gone there.
Oh, yeah.
But it's a phenomenal game.
Oh, yeah.
All right, my number 7 is my Stonemaier game, and while its general mechanics aren't something that I normally go for, the theme just wins me over every time. It's Wingspan. It just is. I love birds. I'm a bird guy. If I could get into bird law, I would, but I can't.
Bird law.
Take off your hat.
Are you Harvey now?
That's Birdman. Thank you.
It is Birdman.
I know.
It's just such a fun, cute game. There's just something about it that I just really like it, and I will back to that.
Well, like,
it's educational.
You look at the resources. You've got, there's nectar now, and you've got the eggs are resources, and all the fish, the rats, the worms, it's just... Yeah,
I'm not, and you guys know this, I'm not a resource management
No,
player
you're not.
at all.
No.
But, man, if that theme didn't just push through for me to get me to actually enjoy it. Maybe not something I would go back to every time, but it's something I look back at and go, yeah, I'm glad I played that.
People that if they're following along with the podcast, we have brought up Wingspan several times.
And I assume
you're absolutely right. Everything that you've said about the game, it was a surprise game for me, because it was just like, you're watching birds, but the fact you have 3 distinct areas and the board looks nice and they keep adding new regions and they think about it. It's not just like, hey, here's Asia birds. No, they actually thought of mechanics to make it all make sense. And like Australia adding the nectar because, well, there's things that birds in Australia can't have because they don't have that,
they don't have access to it.
Right.
The fact that they got everything so anatomically precise, they were able to make a game that represents so much of what exists around us. And they abstracted out what they needed to properly to make it work for a game and still have it be completely recognizable to When you go on the Wingspan Facebook group, which is wild, there is this really popular thing where if you live in a region with one of the birds, you find the bird, you put the card up next to it. Mm-hmm. There's not many games that inspire that.
That's true, yeah. I wouldn't do that with a lot of things.
Yeah, I will say the theme does get bonus points for me just because growing up my uncle was a bird watcher. So it's one of those things of...
And you grew up in a bird street.
I did. That's actually true. My street was named after an obscure one, but bird nonetheless. He was actually one of the bigger ones in the area for Ohio as state. I grew up...
Ohio's a state? What?
Well, no, I mean, not like a local one.
Yeah.
Census taker, all of that.
Yeah.
So it was something growing up like, yeah, of course. Bird watchers exist. Like, it's my uncle. It gets bonus points for me for that. Of just sentimentality.
I have nothing bad to say about Wingspan.
No.
How could you?
Number 7, finally, flat out, I love all the rest of these games. This is, other than Nemo's War, the only direct IP on the list. Now, the others, I have a couple that are very just like, nudge, nudge, wink, wink, hey, this is the IP. It came out as a smash hit in 2020. It is still one of the most popular games. It had a big ol' expansion a couple months ago that I haven't gotten to try yet. It's Dune Imperium. And I had tried reading Dune many times growing up, and it just never took. And then I independently in 2019, before I knew about the Denis Villeneuve movie coming out, I just decided, like, I'm just going to sit down, I'm going to force myself to read Dune. And then I absolutely fell in love with it, and then I suffered through God Emperor of Dune to get to all the weirdness and heretics and Chapter House and all the stuff.
Yep.
Dune Imperium so strongly feels like Dune because you have all the political machination, you have the intense resource fights, you have the backstabbing that comes off the intrigue cards, you have the idea of where do I garrison my men and when do I deploy them, what fights are worthwhile, do I trust my opponents, what is all happening. And it is done through a phenomenal deck building system that says, hey, you are determining how you're able to access the board. Be careful how you buy cards because they just might not come up. And there's really very little way to actually cull your deck. So you can't just flood your deck with things. That idea that water is so hard to get a hold. It is so important in the game. And spice is so valuable. It just takes Dune as a theme and says, cool, let's hate your friends for about 45 to 75 minutes. Because you are going to have some knife come out of the darkness and you are just going to suffer for it. Yes, there's the 1979/2019 Dune. That one you need 6 people and you need 4 to 6 hours. Dune Imperium, you don't. It has an incredible solo mode. It has a really great 2-player mode. It has a great 3 and 4-player mode. It is spectacular download. Biggest issue is the card quality is crap, so you have to sleeve the cards. Other than that, absolutely phenomenal game.
I have not played it, so... I've read Dune. Like, I completely enjoy Dune, so...
I think you would like the game.
Yeah, nice.
I do.
Number 6 for me is... This game actually came out on my birthday. It was actually bought for me as a birthday gift several years ago. The first time I played the game, got to sit and play going, oh my god, what did I just experience? And... They came out with a 2nd edition, and they've done a 3rd edition, and then when they sit there and they go, hey, we're going to take this game that you guys all love, and then we're going to make a legacy version of it, and you sit there, and you play the very first year of it.
This didn't make my list.
And Betrayal Legacy, it's fine, doesn't have to be on your list, it's on my list.
It was short list, real close.
Oh my gosh. Betrayal Legacy, when my friends and I... got done with the very first scenario, we took a 45-minute break because we could not function.
You know me, I don't care about spoilers. Frankly, there are way more important things to worry about in life than finding something out. I refuse to say what happens in that first session.
Yes, I'm the exact same way.
Because that is one of the best gaming experiences I have ever had.
I absolutely love Betrayal at Baldur's Gate. I think it's fun because it has the fun of betrayal of where one person is the betrayer and sometimes nobody is and you fight the game. When you are being attacked by the gelatinous cube, it's hysterical and a lot of fun.
Who doesn't love that?
Who doesn't love that? And that's a great IP that they did it with.
I wish they had picked different colors because the reason I don't own that version anymore is due to production issues for colorblind problems.
I completely agree.
Those tiles are too busy.
Yep.
The game is great, but the production gets in its way.
But when you sit there and you put Betrayal Legacy and you know that you're going to be playing 13 games of this, and you get done with the very first scenario. I don't smoke, and I almost went outside to have a cigarette with my friends.
It's also one of the few legacy games that truly stands up as a post-campaign game. It is a lot of fun that way. The only reason this didn't make my list, and it was close because I have an unhealthy love for betrayal in my life.
Oh, yeah.
Is it fell into this category that I ultimately excluded of the theme of the game is fun, but the mechanisms of the game can fall so short sometimes that the theme truly comes from the people, not the game. Because the scenarios, the haunts, can just be wobbly to the point where some of them don't even bother to get up off the floor.
And that can happen with the base game.
And it can happen with any of them.
But I mean,
and as great,
it's a little bit more control in
as
the legacy.
great as Session 1 is, Session 4 is that bad.
Oh, I would agree.
We had a very bad time with Session 4. So that said, like, if you want B horror, pulpy, blood from the walls, oozing along the floors, it's...
To go all the way through it have that finale and know what that finale did.
So good.
And if you're a person that plays and you... Oh my God. Like, I was screaming. Like, I thought it was, you know...
The other 4 people in the campaign, they had played Betrayal before, but they didn't kind of make the connections.
Yeah.
Because as I was reading out our finale, I'm just like, what?
Yeah.
So cool.
Yeah.
Number 6 for you, my dear friend.
Yeah, this is a game that I'm certain you guys have talked about. I don't know for sure, but I'd be shocked if you hadn't, so I'm just going to get to it. It's Nemesis. It just is. I don't even know where to start with this one. I mean, it is IP adjacent. It's one of those that wink and a nudge.
It did Alien better than Alien did.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit. But man, we've had so much fun at the table playing that game. I mean, the sheer betrayals we've had alone.
You're not wrong. We have talked about Nemesis at length.
Exactly. So I'm not going to go into detail with it. It's just one heck of a fun game.
My number 6, this is the group, the 3 of us, is who I want to play this game with.
Okay.
I have played it with Jake. I have not gotten to play it with you yet because I didn't realize how much this theme was about you until we were playing D&D a couple months ago.
Oh, okay.
I am a essentially lifelong CCG player. I started playing Magic during Revised. I played the Killer Instinct trading card game back in the day. I go deep on this theme. Mm-hmm. Okay. Shuffling cards and buying packs and doing everything. Millennium Blades.
Yep.
If you are a CCG player, it is everything you want out of the store draft tournament experience without having to spend a dime.
It is stupid fun.
It is drenched in this faux Yu-Gi-Oh theme because the Millennium Blades, it's a CCG that's been running for 1,000 years. Okay. And so there are all these cards, and it is just rife with pop culture references. Just you literally can't play a card and not stumble over a reference.
Okay.
But
they
have
aren't done in a ham-fisted way.
No.
Where it's like
makes sense why they're doing it. It's not just we're not
like
it's not a wink and a nudge, haha, isn't this funny?
One of the factions is called the Symphony of Destruction. Mm-hmm. And you look at it and you think, "Oh, this is going to be a Castlevania set." No, it's composers like Bach and Mozart and everybody just done in Castlevania art style. Hilarious.
It's great.
So the game, you start out, depending on if you played it before, you may have a pre-release tournament, but you have 3 tournaments you play in and 3 deck building rounds. And the deck building rounds are all timed, and you have a market that's sitting there that you are buying cards and cracking packs. And when you crack the packs, because let's be honest, most of us only care about the rares, the packs are 1 card. It's just whatever the rare would be out of it. And so you are able to trade, you're able to sell to the aftermarket, you are building a deck to play and bring to a tournament. And the money, paper money, is terrible. Yeah. But Millennium Blades has you use these wads of paper money. And so you are just sitting there throwing wads of cash at each other for, I need that card, I need that deck box. If you are
deck box is a thing?
Oh yeah, you can bring deck accessories into your tournament.
Oh yeah, 100%.
You bring a sideboard for, like, if you are a CCG player and if you have any kind of draft or game night or tournament And it doesn't matter what CCG, you just feel that rush of a pre-release, of a draft night, of whatever, and then you get to put it all back in the enormous box, and you realize you had the same experience you would have without having to spend a dime. And it is wonderful. Phenomenal game.
I can't say anything but good things about that game. I love that game.
Look forward to it. Hey Bat Family, Scott here. Join me and my friends for a weekly live play tabletop storytelling game on Theater Geeks Twitch channel. Check out www.twitch.tv/theatergeeks on Sundays at 4 p.m. Eastern Time.
Numero 5.
So this will be one of the first ones that I really talk more extensively of being like, hey, here's a game that was introduced. They put 3 different skins on. I can't say this happens to have 3 different skins. And one's really good, and the other ones are kind of like, okay. I can tell by your face that I think you know what the heck I'm talking about. And that would be the Villainous series, where Disney Villainous is absolutely amazing. Not all the expansions are great. There are good characters in each expansion, which I think are the reason why you get the game. I own both Marvel and Star Wars. I've played Marvel and went, okay. And I bought Star Wars at GenCon and have yet to crack
Because they picked terrible characters to put in.
And that's the thing is, because I can't...
Great.
Okay, like,
Phasma,
I know...
who cares about Phasma?
No one.
And that's the
thing.
thing.
The movies forgot about her.
I'm going, and I bought it and, like, have never done anything with it. Disney Villainous, absolutely phenomenal. I don't like the shared deck in Marvel.
Yeah.
And Star Wars uses the same
And
thing.
Star Wars uses the same thing. Cool. I don't need it then. I don't need to worry about it.
Almost made my list. It really did.
Same.
I was only allowing one Disney-related game because...
Yeah.
Perilous Pursuit is so good.
Yes. But my big problem with Villainous is the expansions for the price I don't think are worth it. I don't think they have enough
model
content.
they announced. I agree.
I just don't. I couldn't make my list for those reasons. But I do enjoy it. It is fun, and that it plays asymmetrical is pretty cool.
Yeah.
There are 2 reasons that it stayed off of my list, because I really seriously thought about this one.
Yeah.
The first one, kind of in theme of what Jake was saying, is the first set, main set, and then you have the first 2 expansions were made by Prospero Hall. And then Prospero Hall got bought by Funko, and it went down to a single designer, Michael Mulvaney. His stuff isn't as good. It's what happened with the Horrifieds as well. When you brought up, there's a game that has 3 skins on it. I'm like, is he going to talk about Horrified or is he going to talk about Villains?
Horrified.
And Horrified has the same problem of the first one is great.
Yep.
The next 2 weren't designed by Prospero Hall. And so I feel like the quality dropped off. So that kept it out. But the other thing is that while each deck feels very thematic, end of the day, there's no thematic connection between them.
I'm okay with that, in all honesty, because the whole thing is if I'm playing Ursula, which I do.
Revised Ursula, even though I just kind of crapped on Mulvaney, and I'm sorry, the revised Ursula, way better.
I don't want Cruella to villain my cards. Other than when, I don't want there to be a mix when it comes to that thing, because
and I agree
I'm
with
playing,
that.
Yeah.
But I want that Hollow Bastion Kingdom Hearts moment of we're all in the same room. And I think that's why they shifted to that for the Marvel, but mechanically it doesn't work as well.
It feels like 6 different people playing 6 different games.
And that's the problem.
Provided you have 6 people at the table, of course.
But then you have the problem of, like what they have with Villainous Marvel, where it's a big wad of poo.
Oh, God, yeah.
And it doesn't work well. And I think that's why the original works so much better.
And I do think Villainous works well.
Yeah.
I also agree with Mark that I wish there was more interplay with it.
Beyond just a take that.
Yeah. No, it's a good choice, though.
We can have this conversation. Fact of the matter is, I have 2 very stuffed to the gills with custom inserts, Villainous boxes with everything in them over there.
There's a person on Etsy who makes the magnetic boxes that does them designed based on the character that I want to purchase.
Very expensive.
Yes,
I think it says a lot that you put it on your list, and the 2 of us heavily debated putting it on our list. Yeah. So while we were poo-pooing it a little bit, because we do actually enjoy it.
The amount of Disney properties that you can get involved in, as long as the right hooks are there, and Villainous has those right hooks.
Yeah.
It can be long, it can be mean,
Yep.
it can be a little multiplayer solitaire at times.
Yeah.
End of the day, though, it's just fun for the theme.
Sometimes you have that multiplayer solitaire, but not a ton, because you do have to be paying attention. Like what is your goal? Oh, you're really close to getting that. And then, we do have to kind of gang up on you for a little bit. What's your 5, my friend?
All right, my number 5 comes from IDW Games.
I know what it is.
Yes, you do.
Actually, this could be one of a few different games.
It could be, but it's not. It is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: Shadows of the Past.
Yep.
It's actually a fantastic game. It is entirely scenario based. It's mostly a 1v everybody sort of situation where one person's playing the computer, being the villains. Generally, Foot Clan could also be the Purple Dragons. Could also there's a bunch of characters that you could be.
Okay.
Whereas the rest of the people are playing either the Turtles. You can sub in
Casey
expansions. Casey Jones, April O'Neil, or Splinter can all be subbed in.
Splinter's super good.
It is. Actually, they're all very good. But what I really appreciate about the game is the thought behind it. It's not just, here's the Turtles, go run and play. Here's some dice. It's much like Perilous Pursuit, and I will openly admit that, although this came first. Each Turtle specializes in their dice. Their dice are all different.
Okay.
Well, they have the same symbols, but their spreads are a little bit different. Like, Michelangelo's much faster than the rest because, you know, he's using a skateboard, right?
Yep.
Raph's a bit more in-your-face brawler. What's very nice about it is they're brothers, right? And they play like they're brothers. You can share dice with the turtle to your left and the turtle to your right.
Okay.
If they need it.
But interestingly, you have to set up your line of dice, and you have 4 or 6 dice, however many it is. And whatever your die on the left is, goes to the player to your left. Whatever the die on the right end is, goes to the player on your right.
Okay.
If they choose to use it. So it does take a lot of strategy to make sure, you know, you're getting what you need, but also you're there to help your other players if they need it in very interesting ways. And it really does play off that brotherly connection that they have. And you can do it with the sub-ins as well. Casey can share the dice, all of that too. Yeah. And they all do their own things, of course. They are unique. Some have more health, some have less health, all of that. But in general, it is based off of the IDW run of comics that started back in 12, I believe, which is incidentally, if you haven't read it, is a great run of comics. It only covers, I want to say, the first, 2 arcs.
There's a standalone expansion that covers more.
Yes, but even that only covers a couple. I mean, at this point, we're well beyond that. It is just a good time.
It has a phenomenal table presence, and even though it's a lot of dice on both sides, but there is a real chance of winning for both the director player, whoever the villain player is, as much as there is for the turtle.
The villain doesn't have dice. The villain has a deck.
Oh, I know.
The deck dictates how the characters move. So if I'm playing the villains, I can't take it easy on it. It's just not possible. I have to do what the deck tells me to do.
It has that War Chest Undaunted thing of when you play a card, you activate all the units of that type. And so it's really, really cool experience.
Yeah,
it did also have a re-implementation, which it didn't get any expansions, but it was re-implemented for Batman the Animated Series.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
The one thing I will warn people about is it can get a little bit punishing, mostly because the villains have a respawn mechanic that if you are not fast enough with the turtles, it's going to be a bad time.
The game is absolutely short-term tactics versus long-term strategy.
Yeah.
Okay.
You really have to be situationally aware and adapt to what's going on around you.
Yeah, basically every round, there's a pool of all the foot or purple dragons that you've taken out. Half of them can come back every round.
Oh my.
Back to the board. So it's one of those things of you really got to make sure you either achieve the objective or you're doing a darn good job clearing the board. It feels absolutely in line with that comic run of the Turtles, and I love it to death.
That sounds like a good game.
You would like it a lot.
I just want to hit people with a cricket bat.
Okay, my number 5 is the oldest game on my list.
Nice.
It is one that actually just had a new re-implementation released that I am not going to buy. The reviews on it are not good.
Oh no.
Like we said before, horror themes are really well situated for the board gaming space. It has that slight abstraction, but it has that interactivity that it's just fun to do. Nightfall by AEG.
Sure.
David Gregg was the designer. He re-implemented a game called Chainmaster into Nightfall, which just got re-implemented into Unchained, which has everything I've looked at shows there's a lot of issues, unfortunately. But Nightfall as a theme is so strong that I loved buying the new expansions because of the standalone stories that they had at the front of every rulebook. It is a world where night has permanently fallen.
That's right, we've played this.
So vampires are around, ghouls are about, werewolves are around, and humans are just trying to survive, where any of the humans that are out fighting have adopted code names like Kilo 1 or Alpha 9 or whatever, because they realize if their names get out, the monsters are going to hunt down their families. You have really wonderful art and thematic tie on the cards themselves, where pipe bomb, if you use that on somebody else, you actually stick it into their deck at some point based on the way the card reads, and they are going to get hit with a pipe bomb.
Yep.
You have zombies that will shuffle as gangs. You have all this really fascinating implementation of these horrific monstrosities that we're all used to. Really good art, really excellent gameplay mechanism of using the chain to play in cards, and then based on the color of the card, that allows you to play more cards, and that may trigger special effects. But what's cool is if I start a chain, I'm going to wind it around to Scott, and then it's going to go to Jake. Jake's cards come off first, then Scott's, and then mine. So mine stay protected the longest, but there's some really neat mechanical stuff that goes along with that. There's a lot of politicking of, oh no, like I'm already stuffed with wounds over here, go attack Scott, and you're just hoping like, don't ask how many wounds because I actually only have one. It's just so cool, and the world they built is so amazing, and it just, I don't know why it never had a tabletop, it never had another board game. Nightfall was an amazing theme that just came and went, but man, the stories they wrote in those rule books and then reinforced by the cards themselves, so strong.
Yeah, we played that game, and my goodness, we had fun. I don't remember who won.
Doesn't really matter.
But it doesn't really matter. That's the thing. Like, it was just flippin' enjoyable.
And that was one of the first games you and I played.
Yep.
For sure.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I dug it.
Yeah, that's a really nice game. Quattro, number 4. This should not surprise Mark at all that it's on my list. It probably will shock Mark that it's not higher on my list, even though we're already at number 4, because of how much I just love this game. It takes me back to a time of wasting a lot of quarters in the arcade playing Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, or any of those fantastic fighting games, because my number 4 game came out in 2018 and was released by the publisher of Roxley, and it's Dice Throne. Duh. Yeah, Mark's sitting here kicking himself because he's like, of course,
you're sitting here talking about fighting games. I'm like, BattleCon was like 2012, and it's and I don't know that you've played it.
No.
My brain went to a totally
because when you sit there and you look at when you get your first box.
I think at this point, Dice Throne, we have that like board all the time Hall of Fame, like the games that we love and talk about. This one that's on there.
That's on my because I mean, just the sheer fact of taking the simple mechanic such as Yahtzee, and when you sit there and like, there's enough little asymmetry, but
this is a game you would love.
Yeah, we've talked about it.
Yeah, it's just stupid fun. And then they got the rights to the IP of Marvel and X-Men. Honestly, it really feels like I'm playing Street Fighter with Marvel characters.
And Manny Tremblay's art is
so good!
Stinking good.
So my number 4, I know you guys have talked about because it's Millennium Blades. It just is. I love that game. I was going through my list going, yeah, that's got to go on there. And honestly, it is number 4 for
Can we just like stop recording and then like play this game and then we get back into
Yes, please. It's so good.
Yeah, we don't need to talk about it anymore.
Nope.
So my number 4, this is where my Stonemaier entry comes in.
Okay.
Like I said, I restricted myself to one game. If I had let 2 be on here, Scythe would have come in at number 6.
Okay.
This is not Scythe. But when I broke everything down, I'm like, only allowing myself one, which one is it? And I know I've talked about how important the game is to me before. In fact, there's the Games That Made Me episode about this. I can't not use Euphoria, Build a Better Dystopia.
Yes.
Because this is Brave New World, the board game. You are trying to build the dystopia, build the city around you, and you are doing it by trying to keep your people dumb and happy. And as you are contributing, quote unquote, to the betterment of society, a la building the markets and investing in the tunnels and doing all this stuff, it all just feels so good thematically, because you do have the bliss farms in the air. You have that idea of the underground rebellion. You have all that just sheer dystopic craziness distilled down into such a fun, beautiful game. I've talked about the game at length before. I don't need to go further into it. It is my favorite Stonemaier theme, and I still think it is such a deeply underrated game.
Yeah, it's very much a deeply underrated game. It's absolutely phenomenal. Yeah, it's definitely one of my favorite ones to play.
Also some of my favorite dice.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, now the big hitters.
Yeah.
Number 3.
So my number 3 falls along the line of the first skin not being so hot, second skin makes the game for me. We've talked about this one. It is from the designer of Emerson Matsushiki, publisher of Plan B Games, and that is Century Golem Edition. When you sit there and you look at themes, and when we started talking about, hey, we're going to talk about thematic games, this one immediately popped on my list because I played both of them, and I went, okay, that was a fun game. And that was how I felt about Century Spice Road. And then I saw Golem and I went, and now I'm buying this. This is how a theme can make or break you.
Yeah, this is an inversion of my Suro argument, because with the Golem edition, just that paint change makes people like the game more. The big chunky crystals, the big ridiculous art, it just draws people in a way that we have literally seen the exact same game, the exact same trading in the Middle East artwork. Nobody cared. Like, of the people around me.
Gorgeous cards, great quality of stuff that was put in the box, very nice. No. But it was blah.
This is one of those moments where, and especially the other two games help build on it, but that idea of we are given the theme that just hints at this world, and what it allows you to just kind of run rampant of like, what is this world like?
Right.
That generative theme within each player, I think, is uniquely strong to the Golem version.
Yeah. And you look at those cards and you sit there and see like the Golem that's the bridge and the Golem that is a windmill. And you're just sitting there going, oh, these guys are so cute. And you're like, I realize that one is not worth as many points, but that's the one I want. So that's the one I'm going to go for. And
I'm attached.
Yeah. It's just done so well. Theme can make and break a game.
1 through 3 for me were a bit rough because they're all number 1 to me.
Okay,
they just are.
Yeah.
We've all been in those situations.
And they're only on the list in the order they are because I had to. Much like you were saying, right, where a theme can make or break a game.
Yeah.
For me, a theme can sell me a game.
Okay.
And my number 3 is, and number 2 and number 1 are all games that absolutely were sold to me on theme.
Did I send you any of these on Kickstarter?
No, you didn't.
Ooh.
And my number 3 in particular definitely is. Do you like Death Race 2000? Do you like Mad Max? Do you like Mario Kart? If you answered yes to any of those questions, Thunder Road Vendetta. Buy it now. Yeah.
Beautiful game.
Thunder
Chaos.
Road. It absolutely is. It's a game that I backed day 1. And I have backed the expansion day 1.
Oh, I can't wait.
I did send you this. You had already just backed it before I was able to send it to you.
That's why I don't count it. That's why I don't count it. You're like, dude, you want this.
And so you said them like, how's Thunder Road not on his list?
Because I had already had it. And yes, I did buy the Maximum Chrome Edition as well, because...
Why wouldn't you?
Who wouldn't?
You don't need Maximum Chrome. I would say you quote-unquote need Chop Shop. Otherwise, the rest of it's all
Chop
just...
Shop's great.
It's all just Chrome.
Yeah, but for those that don't know, it is a racing game where everybody's given some cars to go down a road. That's about where the racing ends.
Yes, it is.
Yep.
Because you're trying to blow each other up, you're trying to bounce each other off the road, you're trying to do everything you can to make sure that your friends do not make it to the end of that race.
What's so beautiful is that the race keeps going until the first person is out.
Mm-hmm. And then the game ends about 5 minutes later.
Yes.
Yep.
So even though there's player elimination, it's completely negligible. Yeah. And even if you're that person who's like, all right, what is happening now? And you just stare.
If you happen to be in the rear of the pack, you can get taken out of the game. It is a spectacularly fun, chaos incarnate kind of game, which is me to a T.
There is some skill, but luck plays a lot into it, because you are dealing with dice rolls and flips of random tiles.
Anybody can bump into you at any time.
Anybody can bump into you. You never know which direction they're going to go.
This was my number 12.
Really? Yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah, I forgot all about this game.
I didn't.
Well, clearly.
I love it.
It is so fun.
It is my game of last year.
Oh, yeah. That's a great game.
Without question. For me.
Even though I like Apiary better, Thunder Road is my game last year. Because Apiary is phenomenal for all the reasons we already talked about. Yeah. But there's no crazy story that comes out of Apiary
No.
the way it does with Thunder Road. I have great sessions and many things I can talk about from Apiary.
Yeah.
Man, Thunder Road is just like, dude, this thing happened, and then 4 cars blew up, and then another
Yep.
3 went off the road, and somehow one of them hit a ramp, jumped the column, like it made no sense, and they landed in a puddle of acid.
It's fun. And for those that are curious, the expansion isn't adding more tracks. It's not adding more cars, really. I mean, it is adding another color to the game to add another player. But what it is adding is essentially Balloon Battle from Mario Kart. You're in a circular arena.
Okay, yep.
Yeah.
And it is 100% Balloon Battle, which I am here for. 6
The-
players enter, 1 leaves.
Oh
The
my
only
gosh.
thing that I would warn people away from the game, if you do not like high chaos,
Yeah.
high randomness, if you are not okay with just playing a game for the experience, like if you are going in trying to win the game, you're gonna have a bad
You're going to
time.
have a bad time.
But I will say, it's one of those weird games where even though everybody's going into it knowing the objective is just to kill each other, at no point does it ever feel vindictive.
No.
At no point does it feel mean. It's just... Hey,
Vendetta's in the name, but it's not in the gameplay.
Yep.
I adore that game.
Phenomenal game. Okay, sir, you're number 3.
All right, so we went from bombastic, crazy fun to, hey, it's the Civil War.
And this is your number 3?
Also, bombastic, crazy fun.
So my number 3 is a game that is genuinely emotionally painful to play. But I have stood by this as a thematic experience for 11 years now. It came out in 2013. It came out from Academy Games. This is Freedom, the Underground Railroad.
Oh.
This is one of the tensest, most difficult, most emotionally ravaging things you can sit through. Because you are playing Northern abolitionists trying to free slaves from southern plantations and get them up into Canada. And they smartly abstracted out enough so it's not glorifying or theatricalizing any of these aspects, but there are these moments where you are just simply trying to move people north, and it comes down to almost that trolley problem situation of, if I move this guy here, we have lost him. He is gone. And I am going to feel the weight of the life that I just spent. But it means that 4 more get out.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, you have those players who are trying to do that. You have generally somebody dedicated to trying to get the constitutional amendments for freedom passed. So you have somebody over there who's trying to buy and wheel support in Congress. You have these events, these historical events and characters with explicit descriptions of why they were important to this period in time. And you have this stretch out over the period of the Civil War. So it is over 3 periods in the game where support is growing, support is there, and support is wider, but it is now harder to achieve that support at different times. It is mechanically very sound, but what they did with cubes, it is wrecking. And you will more often than not lose the game because some of those choices are just rough. And you only have so many rounds. Every time a new round starts, a new boat comes in. And if you don't have spaces for those people on the plantations because you haven't been moving them out, then they are lost souls. It is a brutal, emotional game to sit through. But boy, at the end of it, you just feel like I felt like I did something. And even though it's just an abstracted board game and you're not actually feeling the weight of any real lives, it does that moment of trying to put you into an abolitionist mindset at that time, and I think it does it very successfully.
Is this a cooperative game?
Fully co-op.
Beautiful. I can only imagine it would be, but you never know with some games, especially when they're trying to do some history stuff.
There is a game that people will compare for thematic weight called This War Is Mine. I don't like that game. I don't think it functions as a game. Thematically, it's incredible, but this is one where the game actually sings. And so that's why I really like this one.
Wow. I get
How's
to
that as a
follow-
lead-in?
Yeah, that's a great one because, we go from freeing the slaves to trying to get cats on quilts. My number 2 is Calico, which is an abstract game. And the reason why this one's on my list, I mean, yes, it's cats. We all know I love cats.
Same.
I love the abstract games.
I'm a dog person.
I think this is one of those games that if Flat Out Games wanted to do it, they could reskin it for a dog lover and it would still work. You just have to figure it out. I was on the drive over and I went, oh yeah, Calico has to be on my list because, yes, as a cat person, I totally get this. I'm trying to do this thing with a blanket and this stupid cat won't get off of it. It just made me giggle.
I have a very serious question for you from a thematic standpoint.
Yeah.
How do you square the fact the game is called Calico and the cat on the cover is not a calico?
I mean, that's just an oversight. But I mean, the fact that
Big oversight.
I mean, it's an orange. The fact that the cat on the box is an orange cat is indicative of what orange cats do. They have one brain cell and they just want to be in the center of attention, and the Calico is just effing off.
And just get all that lasagna, man.
Exactly.
Mondays.
Okay, they could have reskinned this any other way, and I would still want to play it. Like, I was even thinking, like, okay, what if it was reptiles? I'm like, oh, cool, I'm doing terrarium pieces. Like, that's different types of rocks and...
Heat rocks.
Exactly.
And what's interesting is normally we say, like, oh, you can swap the skin out as a derogatory thing in the hobby. But what's cool is that you can adapt this to the species and still make it work.
Yeah, this is one of those rare instances it's like they could sit there and I would still want it, even though I'm not a dog person, even though I don't have reptiles. How could they pull it off with birds? They could probably figure it out. Maybe it's different types of nests or whatever, or different trees. Maybe it's different type of trees. It would work. And for an abstract game where, we had that whole thing of, oh, Suro is an abstract game. I don't understand why you're putting this in the theming. This is also another abstract game, which totally makes sense of the theming of trying to...
I had no arguments. Even though this is an abstract game, I had no arguments because I know the behaviors of cats, and they did that.
But yeah, the designer is Kevin Russ, the artist is Beth Sobel, and I think probably my favorite thing is that they actually took the 10 cats that they used, they actually took pictures of the cats, and the artist Beth, she actually drew these cats, and they were cats from humane shelters.
Very cool.
And so, like, you get a little backstory, and there's just, like, a couple pages.
Sure.
And I didn't even realize it, because now, like, I'm looking at my entire list. If my memory... Yep. I don't believe in my number 1 you can play solo. Calico's the only solo game that I have.
Interesting.
Yeah, I didn't realize that of all my... Even when I'm looking at my number 1, Calico is the only solo game that I have on my list.
7 of mine.
Are solos?
Can be solo.
Okay.
3 of mine can.
But in all honesty, like, looking at my 1, 2, 3, I think they could be completely interchangeable for completely different reasons. But yeah, Calico, I think the reason why I did put it on the number 2 is because it's a solo game and it's cats. And I will play almost anything with a cat theme. But the fact that this is the one that I was like, yeah, this could be reskinned and that dog lover would love it. I have fish. Yep, we could do it with fish. It would work.
Cats are the best.
Oh, cats are amazing.
My number 2, it's a pretty rare game, I feel like, when you can take a game that already exists in a different medium and bring it to a new medium. And my number 2, I think, did that incredibly well, to the point where every time I've played it, it's just, I'm playing the video game.
Okay.
And it's Devil May Cry Bloody Palace. To anybody who has played Devil May Cry before, if you haven't, it's a great game series, one of my favorites. I am a diehard fan. But Bloody Palace in the video games is an arena mode that it's essentially endurance. It's you versus endless waves. How long can you last?
Okay.
And that's what Bloody Palace is, the board game, basically.
It's a boss battler.
It's you in an arena. Although you can have other players. I think it supports up to 4. Each character plays completely different because it's not dice-based. It is a deck builder, but it's also not. It's a little weird. Each character has their own deck. And when I say their own deck, I mean their own deck. They are...
Even their upgrades are their own.
Yes, they are completely unique to each character. You could not interchange them whatsoever. Each character plays completely different. Some of the expansions added devil triggers to each character, which is an expanded super form for each character.
Okay.
Which you swap decks out for those too, so you're now playing a new play style. If you aren't terribly familiar with Devil May Cry, the game is based on style. So it's not, did you kill the enemies? It's how stylishly did you kill the enemies? And that translates, in my opinion, and you've played it too, Mark, extremely well to the board game. It's a game where if you have 2 people in the arena, you're both fighting everything that's on the field. What you're trying to do is extend your combo as long as possible to get as many points as possible in your style
on your
score.
gauge.
Okay.
And at the end of the game, if you manage to beat the final boss, whoever had the most stylish combat is the one that won. And it's just so much fun. It's one of those things of, can I push this combo to an extent where I can hopefully not break it by somebody hitting me, or do I want to claim it now? All these things. And it's not something where you can just play every single card from your hand every turn, because you have to have
the right linking symbols from card to card.
Right,
okay.
Because you play from a ranged to a melee, and then there's some in-between stuff. But you can build your deck by buying cards from your supply, not the supply.
And what's cool is you have full access to your upgrade deck the entire time. It's just, do you have the currency for it?
Okay. Yep.
So,
okay.
The other really nice thing about Blade Palace is you can play it kind of the way you do with Legendary, where technically, yes, you are going for a score. If you just want to play it as a co-op and just kill things, because if all players go down simultaneously, you lose. And so you can play it as just a full co-op if you want. And it's fun either way. I'm not going to lie. I knew you were going to put this on your list.
Yep.
So I wanted to take the opportunity to highlight some games that I know I was never going to be able to talk about on really any other lists, which is why the Night Cage made this.
Yeah.
This would have been my number 10.
And I think it deserves it.
I cannot explain to you. I like Devil May Cry. It's fun. I'm bad at it. I don't really care. So, like, he's like, yeah, let's play it. Like, it's Steam Forge games. There's too much stuff in the boxes. The card quality is a little whiffly. Like, you look at the graphic design, you're like, this is it. And then you realize, oh no, the graphic design is perfect for what they're trying to do.
Yep.
Because it's immediately readable and understandable. I can't explain it. On my top 100, only 2 games do I not own. Those 2 games are his, and that is Thunder Road and Devil May Cry.
And its miniatures are absolutely gorgeous.
Steam Forged. They're great.
Yeah.
It's a super bummer that they lost the IP rights.
Yeah.
Because there will never be anything else. There's not going to be a reprint of it. If you can find... And you just need the base box. The expansions, a lot of fun. Lady is super unbalanced, but she is. Her grenades are really unbalanced.
Yeah.
But even if you are able to just track down the base boxes, you'll have a banging time.
Yeah, it's just a outright fun game.
My number 2 is the other direct crossover on the list. It is, of course, with Jake, because it is, of course, the Board All the Time Hall of Famer, Nemesis. Mm-hmm. I've talked at length about it. Jake talked about it. I mean, it's Nemesis. You know my opinion of it. It is one of the kings of the emergent story genre. You want to play Alien? Great. Go play Nemesis. You want to go play Doom 2? Go play Nemesis Lockdown. I cannot wait for Retaliation. It's going to be super great. Nemesis is my number 2. Let's round this thing out. Scott.
This also should be on the Hall of Fame of games that we talked about.
It's Ticket to Ride.
It is not Ticket to Ride. But I will be honest, that actually was on my list because I do really enjoy the theming of Ticket to Ride. I think it's a very classic, simple theming. Absolutely enjoy it. Could have been on my honorable mention list. Mine,
nowhere near mine.
This should not shock Mark at all. Honestly, wouldn't surprise me even if it happened to be on his. I'd be shocked if it was on your number 1, but I thought maybe it would be on your list. It is the 2022 game, designed for Manny Vega and artist Cedric Tang.
I've been waiting for this.
It's Flamecraft. My God, what can I talk about Flamecraft? All the things that I love about the Gollum edition of Sentry, Flamecraft has in spades. Because here are these itty bitty cute little dragons that do things in this town, and they help run shops.
Here's a wide-angle lens into this world.
Yeah.
Now imagine everything else about it.
All of the dragons have really cute names that make sense for what type of dragon that they are. Like the black dragon's named Ivy. Like, duh. Like, that's just...
Oh, so somebody played Spyro. Mm-hmm. Oh, okay, cool.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the artwork's super cute.
This is a game that was clearly designed theme first.
Literally, the reason why this game did so well on Kickstarter was because of how cute the game is.
Well, it's also dragons.
I saw this and went, oh my God, it's too cute. And I immediately
Very
went...
Pokemon-esque.
Yeah. I'm like, and here's my money. And then I went, oh God, I hope it's going to be a good game.
Because...
And then the whole thing is then you played the game.
You and I have talked about this before, the idea that we both backed it basically on site because of how pretty it was. And I knew I could probably get Natalie to play it and I would enjoy it, whatever. And then we both kept looking at the campaign of like, but wait, what's the game about again? And then it turned out, and thankfully the game is just that good.
And that's the thing. The game is just that good. I have a blast every single time I play the game. Every time it's on the table, doesn't matter who I'm playing with, I'm like, I'm going to have a great time because I'm going to get cute dragons. And for your gamers that sit there and play games a lot, they are going to enjoy the game, because if you ignore the fact that Super Cute Dragons, it's still like a really challenging game. It's not just like an easy game. It's just in really pretty paper.
And it is packed with positive player interaction, which means that it's significantly more attractive to a wider array of people, especially when you're talking about families, when you're talking about people who are game adjacent, you know, they've played your big box stuff, where, you know, they've played all the classics. This is something that you can get them in on, and it is such an easy drive in of, and oh, by the way, the Iron Dragons, they make metal.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's obvious, but it is such a fun, easy game to teach.
Yeah. Yeah. And I have to recant for my number 2. I forgot Flamecraft does have a solo mode.
Fair.
Yeah. Like we were saying, the positive player interaction. You're at a space that I need to be at. I'm going to go there. But because you're there, I'm going to give you one of my resources. I mean, I'm not going to give you a choice of what I give you, but I'm going to give you one of my resources.
But chances are what you're doing on that space is going to make that space better for the table anyway.
Exactly. Yep. And it's such a cool game.
This one I struggled. But again, this was one that I knew that was probably going to be on your list.
Yep.
This easily could have been on mine. This was in my top 20. But it broke down to, I wanted to highlight a couple other games.
Yeah, you've repeated that theme a little bit tonight. Once you start saying, hey, I wanted to make sure I highlight other ones, because I knew you knew me. But
it's great.
And that's the thing, is that such a strong theme at the get-go, and then you tie it with just absolutely phenomenal gameplay.
Jake, I'm not going to lie. I am sitting here racking my brain on what your number one's going to be.
Yeah, same.
And I am fairly positive it has way too many boxes sitting in your basement.
Wait, I know what it is. It's Monopoly.
It might be Monopoly.
If it's not this, I genuinely don't know what it's going to be.
My number 1 I picked because it took an existing game, an existing property, and made it better by overcomplicating it.
Wait, that doesn't normally happen.
I know. But Number Drop is such a good game.
Oh my god, get out of this house right now, you lying sack of...
No, I'm joking.
Well done.
That game's horrible. No, my number 1 pick, you're absolutely correct. My board game collection. This one game takes up 50% of my real estate.
It's an enormous amount of boxes.
And it is.
It's fun, though.
Yes, it is. And it is Power Rangers Heroes of the Grid.
Oh my god, yes, I love that game. It's so much fun.
It is.
I've only got to play it once. It really bugs me out.
It made my short list, but I just simply haven't played it enough. And I don't have the attachment to the theme you do, but it is clearly made by somebody who cares about that theme.
Yes. Jonathan Ying has a clearly deep love for the franchise, much like I do. It's a franchise I've loved since childhood. I still do. Heck, my birthday present last year from my wife was the Power Sword from the Red Ranger. So, yeah.
That's awesome.
I know, right? Yeah, it's an ever-expanding game, which hurts my wallet. It's a lot of boxes. At this point, and this is why this game had to take number 1 for me, it's not just that the game is literally thematic in and of itself. The sheer content that they have generated from this one IP, it's absolutely insane. We currently have in that game 9 different sets of foot soldiers that you can pick from to fight against. And that's just your base levels. Monsters, you've got, I want to say 34. Bosses are right around 25. And the Rangers themselves, 83 playable characters currently in that game.
And they're all different.
Yes. And they all play different. Each team has their general theme of how they play. Each member has an important role on that team, but you do not have to play them together. You can play them however the heck you want.
All Blue Rangers.
You can. You absolutely can. Truly incredible part, they still have plenty more to do. But most of the teams have been represented by at least one member. When I say it plays like the TV show, I mean it. It's different areas of the city getting attacked at seemingly random. It's not, but seemingly random by monsters, Putty Patrol, all of that stuff. It's nostalgia for those that grew up on it. And for me, that is major points. And of course, being able to get a Megazord out is always fun. They all play very unique. For the most part, they all play exactly like the characters on the show do, depending on their seasons. It does expand into the IDW comics run, but it has pretty much every iteration of Rangers you can think of, and some you didn't even know existed.
To get to the gameplay side of it, there's this really interesting communal resource pool that allows you to use your abilities. And so there's this really cool tactical balance of, I'm just going to generate all this energy and throw it in the pot so that way you can do something big and crazy. And then if we're all able to get our Zords out, bang, Megazord. And you have one-shot play, there's scenario play, you are bouncing across the city and trying to fight off waves of goons and making sure that the big bad isn't going to crush things. Really, really neat game. I need to play more of it.
Okay, sir. Finally bring us home. What is your number one?
My number one is a game I have too much of, and it is a game that
Monopoly?
I just, within the last year, paid an enormous amount for more of it. It is a theme that, generally speaking, I do not like at all. I have never once engaged with the media that this all borrows from. This is very much a nudge, nudge, wink, wink, hammer blow to the face. This is the theme. It's from Van Ryder Games, a publisher that I've never really succeeded with before. It is a solo-only game. It's Final Girl.
Yep. Yeah, I wondered if that was going to be your... Yeah, I figured that was going to be on your list.
I cannot overstate how incredibly well done the thematic tie is to this game. It improved upon the previous hostage negotiator system and said, hey, you're going to be the final girl in whatever horror movie. Throw a dart, find a horror movie. And you are going to try and survive against that killer. I have never once been able to watch a Saw movie. I do not do well with gore. I do not like slashers.
Saw really doesn't have a final girl. But yes.
There is, in season 3, the Merrick murders is clearly Saw. I can't wait to play that one. Because I've played the Carnival of Terror, and the way the traps work in that one, it is so challenging. These are brutally challenging resource efficiency and dice manipulation puzzles that they make me look at a theme that I have never once ever cared about because I don't do well with blood and gore, and just make me play endless amounts of it. Then you have the really cool aspect of, you know what? I'm gonna put the thing in Silent Hills Asylum. Let's do it.
But is there a Cocaine Bear expansion?
Not yet. Yet being the key word.
It's coming.
In season 3, there's a Final Destination one, where there's not actually a killer on the board. It is such a flexible, modular, interesting system. And if you only have the one film, if you get the starter pack, it's $40. You get the main box, and then you get the Friday the 13th box with it.
Sure.
You have plenty of game there. But for each film that you buy, you have just increased your gameplay options exponentially. It is so much fun. It is absolutely brutal. It is one of those emergent storytelling engines that I've talked about many times in this podcast, because that crazy moment happened when I'm playing against the Night of the Living Dead, and I was just able to manage the zombies well enough that I kept a full outbreak off of me, but had one thing gone wrong, I would have been overrun like it did when I fought the birds. It's great.
Birdemic.
It's
Terror from Above.
Yes. And the zombies is Terror from Below. And I believe the Final Destination is going to be called Terror from Beyond.
Makes sense.
Lame.
It's great. And yes, there are films that I don't like as much as other ones. The Nightmare on Elm Street one, the Frightmare on Maple Street, whatever they call it. It's okay. It's fine. But then you have stuff like the Panic at Station, whatever it's called. It's the Thing one. And you are paranoid the whole time from all your victims, because you know there's at least one, but the game could throw 3 killers at you.
Sure.
The one that's based on the home invasion movies, like Strangers, thank you. There are 3, and there's a very realistic chance they might stand back up. It's just, Final Girl's great. I love it.
Ooh. That's good. That's solid number one. I think all of our number ones stand really well on their own for very vastly different reasons, but definitely those are some solid themes.
This was a fun conversation to have.
Oh yeah.
And we had 2 direct crossovers, and then there
was
were
you two.
And there were like 4
I
could have been crossovers.
Yeah, that could have been on my list.
So, I mean, realistically, we talked about 30-some games.
Yeah.
And on a top 10 list, that just speaks to the depth and variety and success of thematic integration in this hobby.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
And like you said, I think there is a clear and distinct reason to be a fan of all of them.
Yeah, I think you can't sit here and discount any of our choices. You can be like...
I mean, Suro's a little weak.
Whatever reasoning that we all came up with, I think they're all really solid. So
Well, Jake, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for listening to us. If you would like to get in touch with Scott and myself or any of the other theater geeks in relation to Board All the Time, you can hit us up at boardallthetimegaming@gmail.com. You can visit us on our website, boardallthetime.com, where we will have a newsletter sign up as well as a feedback form. You can also join us on our Discord. The server link is in the episode notes. And finally, you can find us on Facebook under Board All the Time.
At this time, we'd like to thank our sponsors. Do you like shiny math rocks? I like shiny math rocks. Go to Robin's Nerd Supplies and use the code TheaterGeeks and receive 10% off your order. Links to the website is in our episode notes. Also, we'd like to thank EcoL Press, a local printing company here in the South Bend area, happens to be a union shop, and they do everything for your gaming printing needs. And what's so nice is that they're environmentally friendly. You will also be able to check them out in our episode notes.
And with all that, Scott, I tell you this every single time. I'm bored of you.
Yeah, I feel the exact same way.
Let's go play some games.
Sounds good.